Hey guys, welcome back to the garage. Today we are doing a special project. This is an instructional video and it's not GCM parts, but it kind of is. We are going to do an install on the IRIE suspension, or I should say Bellcrank steering upgrade, and it's specifically designed for the GCM upright shock suspension mod. Thank you very much to IRIE Products for making this kit. Link below where you can find this product on the forums. He does such a good job with the packaging. There's actually a list on the back of part numbers of shocks and steering servo horns that actually will work. Recommended parts for the kit. I also recommend them. Great job. The suspension has the shocks on it already, but our kit was designed specifically to work with the stock steering, which you all know is terrible. So this video is going to show you how to take this fantastic Bellcrank steering system from IRIE Products and install it on your GCM TowerPlate equipped hammer. And the next part of this video, there's going to be a couple of different sections you'll see roll through. I'm not going to waste your whole time watching me take all the nuts and bolts off my truck, so I'm going to do some of that off camera, and we're going to just do a little clip on how this thing is put together. Right now I'm starting with my fully functional twin hammers. I've got the GCM hood on here, I've got the GCM front tower plate, of course our interior kit, the roof kit is on here, so this is fully equipped. And a lot of people ask me this question as a side note. This is a GCM regrind wheel, which we make in very small batches, maybe every 2 years, so don't ask for these wheels because we have none. Now, next time you see me, I'm going to have half my truck tore apart, and right now I'm going to take off the hood, I'm going to take off the roof and the interior out, and I'm going to get it all cleared out inside so I can show you where I'm going to take off the tower plate and how to get this fantastic steering arm setup installed in my buggy. Be right back. So only a couple minutes after I did this wrenching, I have all this stuff off of here. This will just give you a quick little preview of what I took off. So I took the whole roof panel off. This is the GCM roof kit with the light bar and everything. This is the GCM interior kit, so if you have the stock one in or whatever, get rid of that too. And the nice part about these things is they just kind of bolt on. That makes it really easy. I took my hood off. Hood, take your hood off. And you should end up with something like this. So the whole suspension plate is wide open, and you got lots of room in here, and I'm recommending you do that. Take the interior panel out and everything, because to get to the back screws here, the two back screws on the tower plate, they're right at the shift servo, and so you kind of need some space to get in there, and so just take the panel out, take the roof off, and be done with it. So I'm going to take off the tower plate, get rid of the front shocks, and we'll get all that steering stuff exposed here so we can put in the Bellcranks. Be right back. So I pulled off the tower plate. It's only 5 screws, right? There's 2 in the back. There's one here in the middle that goes into the old steering rack, and then there's the 2 that go into the top of the diff case, and that's off. I just let the shocks just sit here. So I'm left with this. This is what we've got, and what I'm going to do now is actually take off the servo horn right here, and I'm going to take off the servo actuator linkage that goes across so I can get at the rack, because the old steering rack has 2 screws that go down this way into the diff. They go like this from the back towards the front, and I need to clear that out so I can get my angled wrench in here and actually stick my angled wrench in behind and get those 2 screws out from the back of the steering rack. So I'm going to take out those 2 screws right after I get this linkage off and the servo horn, and I'll be right back. Alright, so before we go any further, I just want to say that the tie rods that go from the wheel to the steering, they actually go on here underneath the Bellcrank, okay? Just like this. That's why you see this long screw here. This is where your stock tie rod goes on. Alright, can you see that? and you put these on both sides before you mount this onto the bottom of the plate. Okay? Before. Otherwise you can't get the screwdriver on there. Okay? So make sure you put them on before. I'm going to leave them off so we can see everything a little more clearly without them flapping around, but you must put them on before this goes on the bottom of the plate. Alright. Alright, so I got the Bellcranks on the tower plate. And I'm going to show you that because you can save yourself a lot of farting around here by doing this setup. So you know how the tower plate has these slots in it, right? They go up and down. And the IRIE hardware is designed to actually fit inside the slot from the bottom. You see how that actually fits right inside the slot? There's a little like head on that spacer that fits right in the slot. Yeah. See that? Awesome. They custom fit. I mean, that's perfect. Now, because the slot has all this free space in it here up and down, how do you know where to put it in the slot? Well, that's easy, and I'm going to show you right now. You see these two holes right here? There's two holes right on the bottom here, and these two holes right here, they bolt into the top of the differential housing, and right beside those two holes is the arms that stick out of the differential housing that are used for the top control arms. Okay? So, you see the two holes right there? Well, there's the two arms that stick out that have the top tie rod on them. You see the top tie rod, and then there's the arms here. Well, these two arms are in line with the center of these two holes right there, which means when you go to set this up, you actually want to have your arms, these things, this part right here that actually swings on the bottom here, that black ball end, you need that to line up with the middle of those holes. You see that? Don't make them come down. Don't make them go up above the holes. Line up the bottoms of those black ball cranks, ball arms, line those up with the middle of those two center holes on the diff housing. You got that? So that you should end up with your ruler on the hole centers, and you can still swing these without hitting the ruler. If they're too low, then your arms are going to actually hit the ruler. If they're too high, you'll have too much space. So line them up right in the center of those holes. Got that? So these black things right here line up. The edge of the black ball ends go right in the center of those holes. Alright, I hope that's clear. And of course, you already know this, but the side of the Bellcrank that actually has the servo driven arm, this side goes on the right hand side of the vehicle. Okay? You already know that. I don't have to tell you that. That's where it was before. The push rod went to the right hand side of the vehicle from the servo. It still goes to the right hand side of the vehicle from the servo. IRIE already has these all assembled and everything, so all you have to do is just take the screws and nuts off and put them back in the same spot. Anyway, that's the slots, okay? Now I'm going to move on to doing the tie rod from here to the servo, and the first thing I'm going to do is actually clean up all this crap that's in here because my son's been mud bogging with this thing, so it's full of dirt. Let me clean that up and I'll put the tie rod on. I'll be right back. Alright, so at this point you should have your Bellcranks on like this, and of course, like I said at the beginning, you actually have to have these tie rods on before you mount it to the plate, okay? But just so we could see everything, I had them off and now I've put them back on and reinstalled that. So you have to make sure this is done. These are on. There you go. It looks like this now. Ball stud. there's a link between the steering arm right here that goes across to your servo, right? This is the stock one right here. This is the stock link right here, okay? Now, there's a trick here. I'm going to tell you a trick on making all the stock stuff work, and this is really important. Now, first of all, on the original horn right here, there already was a ball stud. It was a long one. And on the rack, on the steering rack side, the old steering rack, right here, there was also a ball stud, but it was a short one. So there was a long one on the servo, and there's a short one on this. Okay? Now, when you switch to the recommended servo horn, which is right here, on the back of the packaging, when you switch to this servo horn, you're going to put the short ball stud from the old rack into the servo horn, and you're going to switch the long ball stud from the old servo horn onto the bottom of the IRIE steering rod. Okay? So that's what I did. I've got the long horn, or the long ball stud on the servo right here. See that? Or, sorry, I'm getting this all messed up. I got the long ball stud on the steering arm from IRIE, and I've got the short ball stud on the servo, okay? They just switched around. That's important for 5 reasons. Number 1, the servo horn swings right here, and if you put the long ball stud in there, there's not enough room and you're going to hit this arm, okay? No room. I mean, there's no room. So you have to use a short ball stud on the actual servo horn. Got that? And then the servo horn ball stud goes facing backwards, not forwards. It goes facing backwards. And then you need the long ball stud on the steering arm, because the steering arm here is thicker and the short ball stud from the old rack is too short. You need a longer one, and the longer one comes from this old servo horn. Okay, got that. Now, at this point, you've got this, looks like this, and you should have your ball end on the servo, already on the servo horn, and then you're going to attach these two together. And you guys already all know this because you're probably all race car fans and you've been doing this for 10 years, but I'm just trying to tell you this anyway. When you get a ball stud off of a ball, you don't yank it off, okay? When you take a ball stud off of a ball, you rotate the ball cup. You rotate the ball cup like this, and the ball pops off. You don't yank it like whatever. You just rotate the ball cup and it pops off. So when you put them on, you do exactly the same thing, okay? You line it up, and then you rotate and push the ball cup onto the stud. So, what you should have now is the GCM plate ready to bolt back in to the truck. Okay? It should look like this. You've got the new servo Bellcrank posts there. Your tie rods are here, and they're waiting to go back onto the suspension arm. And then all you got to do is put your bolts back in. The servo is already connected to it. And the last trick I want to tell you before you put your screws in there is that the servo Bellcrank rod, the push rod here that goes from the servo over to the Bellcrank, that push rod has to be opened up about 3 millimeters for this whole thing to be perfectly lined up. Okay, so when your servo is centered, if you use the original ball stud servo push rod, that thing is going to be too short, but it has a turnbuckle on it, so you just open it up slowly until you get about 3 millimeters longer, and then you leave it alone and it's perfect. So now you should be able to put this back in here, and I'm going to drop in the screws and put all my steering knuckles back on, and then we will get it tested out, and I'll show you what's going on with the suspension and all that, lining it up and everything. So I'll be right back. Alright, so we've got the 4 screws back in. There's the 2 at the back here that are up at the gearbox, and then there used to be 3 in the center. There used to be 2 on the gearbox and 1 on the old steering rack, but the one on the steering rack is gone. So now there's 4 big screws holding that on. They should be M3 by 12 flatheads, just so you know for yourself. That's the screws that should be in there. And that's the perfect length to give you the maximum drag into the hole, so you get the maximum bite. Now, just the same way that we opened up the turnbuckle on the top from the steering to the Bellcrank, from the servo to the Bellcrank, we made that wider just a minute ago by 3 millimeters. That was 2 full turns. We did the same thing for the left tie rod and the same thing for the right tie rod. We made them longer by 2 full turns on the turnbuckle, and that gave us our steering back to normal because it was towed out a little bit, so we just brought the wheels in a bit. That adjusted that. We've got full throw here on the servo, okay? And there you go. I'm going to put the hood back on, and we're going to make some dirt. Oh yeah.